Oh, you have your plane window behind you.
I did a video interview recently, and it was looking very sparse back there. So I thought, shit, just prop it up on a box and hope for the best.
So now you still have your horn.
My horn, yes. So that is it's a replica of a Spitfire propeller made out of a Spitfire propeller and given to my grandfather in, I think, 1941 in Algeria, because he was there in the Air Force fixing propellers for Spitfires out of basically anything they could find. And that's that.
I love that it's a replica, but using the original material.
Yeah. So, a Spitfire would land with a Thrash propeller, and they would go, well, this is useless, but let's make something fun out of it. So.
That's so cool. Yeah, your background in your studio is taking shape.
Building a little bit of character.
No, it's good. It's good. I will apologize in advance. We're today, April the 6th on Wednesday. My cleaning lady is in my house at the same time that we're recording. But I have, headphones and I don't listen to environmental noise. So if you hear like hoovering, it's not you guys. It's in my house. It's not in Alex's house either. And maybe a little bit my cat is growling because I think she wants to eat, but we'll have to wait 2 hours until we finish this.
Well, you may hear my kids growling at some point, but...
They're also hungry.
They are hungry, and it's the Easter holidays. So,
oh yes, it is. We'll talk about this because you've experienced a little bit of the mess we're having in the UK, but we'll talk about that later. Because let's do how do they call that? A shit sandwich? No, let's but the opposite. Let's have good news at the start, good news at the tail end. And like in the middle, we'll put a little bit of the stuff that is less fun to talk about, including the mess. But that includes one of your travels, so that will be quite interesting. Day 1,363,001 since Japan closed its border and won't ever reopen? Is that it?
It just seems to be going on, and you get a piece of teasing news, and then it's snatched from you just as quickly.
Yeah, and there've been people sharing that Japan was opening. No, it's not. It's opening for people who had visas that were processed or accepted before the cutoff. So I mean, it's still closed. John Dobb, who you remember, what's a YouTube thing? Only Japan, I think it's called. You remember him from the attaché in Tokyo that we did. He predicts that it's going to open in the summer. I hope that it's going to be open in the summer. I'm not sure I'm going to go as far as predicting. He says that he's seen a lot of ads by Japan Tourism, but I've been targeted by ads for 2 years, and it's borderline insulting to be having these ads on my feed.
Yeah, I've had the exact same experience where I think it's because I follow quite a few like local Japanese photographers and AV geeks and things like that we're a natural target for them. But I do feel for the JNTO and basically all of the prefectural tourism boards. Like, what do we talk about?
I was telling Matthew Drinkwater. I don't know if you know him. Do you know him? He works at he's a very good friend, Chelsea fan as well. And I think is it your birthday, Matt, today? So I know he's going to be listening. So it's not going to be today. You're going to be listening, but happy birthday. He was thinking to go this summer, and I was saying, you know what? I think the whole thing about getting ads is, of course, like you said, also simply what do we do with the budget? But it's also very symptomatic of bureaucracy. Like, so we have the budget. So what do we do now? And departments do not talk to each other. So I don't even think they know about any kind of opening. Maybe like one minister knows about maybe what they want to do, but they maybe are still in the dark. It's very symptomatic of bureaucracy and perhaps Japanese bureaucracy. But what can we do, man?
Yeah, I hope for the best. South Korea seems to be slowly relaxing, and I think now, as of the first of this month, you can go, and I think it's if you're vaccinated, and it's just you take a PCR test on arrival and have to just sit in a room until it comes back negative, and then that's it.
I think I'm not sure there's a test pre-travel, but there's one test on arrival, and there's also a test on day 6 or 7, unless you leave before, and you have to do an exit test if you leave before, which is a bit bizarre, but I think that's the thing. But Singapore also, you can go if you're vaccinated. No more vaccinated lines. We talked about it. I wanted to do that, and now it's basically open. I think Thailand, Joe Allen. Talking about
Joe Allen, yeah, he's in Bangkok.
Joe Allen is there right now. I mean, if you don't know him, follow him on YouTube or at least on Instagram. Hi, Joe. Cambodia, I think, opened, and Vietnam as well. I don't know the rules, but I think they also opened. So Asia is slowly, and obviously Australia and New Zealand are also opening. So Japan will be the lone wolf. I mean, besides obviously
China, different conversation.
The reason we need to go to Japan, man, because I know that you appreciate these things. You remember the debacle of New Coke back in, I mean, we were too young, but like, what was it, 82?
Yes.
84, 82. So Asahi is changing the recipe of its super dry, and that's the first time they do it since the launch in 1987. Will that be New Coke? I don't know, but I want to actually try it.
I want to try it. You know my theory about New Coke, right?
Go ahead.
My massive conspiracy theory is that it was all planned.
Why? Go on. It's an aviation podcast, but I'm interested.
Yeah, so I'll give you my 90-second brand deviation conspiracy theory, my QAnon classic Coke. So my theory is that it was a brilliant piece of corporate strategy. Sales were floundering. You do something and you say, no, we've revolutionized it. We've made it better. You purposely make it very sweet, and people go, well, this isn't right. What have you done? What have you done? And then you come back and go, let's reintroduce what they called for 2 decades classic Coke.
Yeah.
And sales go through the roof. And
Yeah.
then you introduce Diet Coke as well on the backside of that. So I have a feeling that it was all done. It wasn't some massive. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit.
I don't know. I think the thing is, you remember the story, guys. Promise you, we'll go back to talking airplanes afterwards. As you know, it was a blind testing, and with focus groups. In the story of food, like industrial food, every time you add sugar, people prefer it on blind testing because sugar actually is like a dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
Which is why we have more and more sugar in processed food. And I think maybe they got caught up in that. Like they said, oh, this is better. People kind of rate it better. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I need to follow the Alex QAnon Reddit something. I'm sure that exists somewhere in the bowels of the internet. I forgot to put this because of course you guys were recording. So
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
Yes, we're back after more time than we thought we would be, but not as long as last time. So you see, guys, we are trying to record. Talking about some new Asahi, so new Coke, new Asahi, new Alitalia. It's just a joke, man. So Alitalia, ITA, won the tender for the Alitalia brand. Don't tell me it wasn't planned from the start. That's a QAnon theory right there. I don't know what to say, man. So basically, I think they even like only painted one plane as ITA, and then basically they knew, so they just waited until they got they won the bid for the Alitalia brand name, and basically it's back to being Alitalia. Yeah,
I saw that one airplane. I can't remember if it was in Athens or in Zurich, but I saw it and I heard somebody say, ITA, what's ITA? I'm like, oh, no wonder you're changing it.
They are receiving, or they will receive like 350-900s from Hainan, and I think a lot of airlines are getting planes from Hainan, and so they won't have to paint them in ITA. That will be Alitalia directly. Have you heard that Lufthansa is trying to bid for ITA, because I think that's still the name of the company, the group. But also, on the other side, there's another bid by Delta, Air France, and KLM.
Man, so this saga has been going on and on and on. Because wasn't Lufthansa one of the original bidders before this ever became a thing, before ITA, and then, or was that the one that
which
Etihad bought? Yeah, I don't know, man. What a mess. What a mess. I'm glad that Alitalia is still there in some capacity, but you also have to wonder how damaged that brand is, or if people have sort of forgotten.
Well, I mean, if you need in Italy, I mean, the other, what was the Qatar Airways name of the Air Italia? That's gone.
Yeah, which was Meridiana.
Meridian, yeah, exactly. That's good. These are one of the airlines that suffered through the pandemic. But I mean, oh well, man. Talking about Qatar, by the way, the saga continues. I don't know if you've seen that since I just said 350-900. So Airbus refused to deliver one more 350-900. And they say, Airbus is saying that they won't deliver. So I think there's 20 more on order. And they say every time there's one ready out of production, they won't deliver it to Qatar Airways.
It's like someone's going to have to blink, aren't they?
Qatar is, guys, I don't know if you said that last time. Qatar is suing Airbus for $1 billion in damages. They actually even said now that the paint damages that they're seeing could ignite the fuel tanks. I don't know if that's actually believable, but that's what they say.
Yeah, I bet Airbus loved that little press release.
and Airbus is, of course, suing Qatar for a less amount, I think, for basically the price of each plane. So currently, for the first two, it was 220 million. So now it probably has 300 or something. I mean, the lawyer is going to win this, man.
There's a lot of people making a lot of money off this.
Right, exactly. So we'll talk about BA as we said at the start, because you've been in the absolute IT mess. But let's again shit sandwich. Let's switch that a little bit later. The good thing, however, for you and me who are using Avios is that now you can link Qatar Airways and BA Avios Executive Club together, because Qatar has moved from its privileged club, I think it was called, whatever the name, to Avios. So basically, they're the exact same points now. And I've done it. You go on the website. I've done it on Qatar. Maybe you can do it on the other way around as well. And it's pretty seamless. You can then say, oh, I have X amount on this one and X amount on this one, and you just like transfer over. I don't know if there's limits or how many times you can do it per day or something, but it seems pretty seamless.
I'm sure that there are a lot of bloggers out there who have managed to figure out the limits and loopholes and all of that. But it's good. I mean, they are very tightly integrated. They have a sort of BA American relationship now, don't they? Where Qatar owns 20-something% of IAG, not just BA, and so this is just one more kind of efficiency they're trying to bring in. I think it's great. It's fantastic, mainly because it means easier redemptions on Qatar. And it's funny, while I was in Athens that's another freaking story, waiting for my flights, there was and you will have obviously seen this a million times, but I'd forgotten, there was a Qatar A320 and an Etihad A320 next door to each other. And I was just looking over longingly at them. I've never been on Qatar short haul. I have been on Etihad short haul, and of course, it's the experience that you would expect. It's outstanding. So I was
the seats are actually pretty cool. It's funny. It's almost medium haul, because when you do, I've done Athens to Doha, and I've done also what's the other one? Sofia, I think, to Doha with a Qatar 320. It's still like 5 hours.
So yeah.
I thought it's like short haul stretched, but it's actually great. And I've done Etihad 320, but a long time ago. I think it was to Cyprus from.
I did it. Abu Dhabi to Delhi, and I was in business, and it was excellent. But it's interesting because Jason Rabinowitz, airline flyer on Twitter, really interesting guy. I think is in the revenue management side of things. Anyway, he tweeted saying, jokingly complaining that European short-haul business class is nothing compared to the U.S. And he is right, but he is. The point is more that none of the European airlines operate narrow-gauge airplanes on anything over 3.5, 4 hours. Yeah. In the U.S., you have a plane that will need to do San Francisco, L.A., and then do L.A., New York, L.A., D.C., which you need, that's 6 hours, 6.5. Yeah. And often on red eye. So we just don't have the need. If you're flying London, Tel Aviv, that's about as far. And even BA now are operating 350s and Dreamliners on routes that distance. So it's really just, short, quick turn.
Yeah, it's 3 hours. I mean, maybe the exception, I would say Turkish sometimes has 737s from London to Istanbul. Mm-hmm. I mean, I prefer trying the 777, but you have some, at least before the pandemic, I remember, that's 4 hours?
Yeah. I mean,
it's never 6, that's for sure.
Exactly. And I think that's just different fleet strategies and therefore different product strategies.
Yeah, but I mean, I like the fact that that we can now move Avios easily for those who are on Avios or on Privilege, whatever the name of the Qatar points were. It seems if you want to redeem Qatar, it's easier because you can do it on both. But it seems that for long haul Qatar, you'd better put your Avios on Qatar directly, and you get slightly better redemption deals.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's what I've heard, but it's very early, so probably that will change. But you know, I mean, again, we're teasing this. It's hard to love BA these days for many, 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 many reasons. That's one plus. I know the plus is being able to fly Qatar. I mean, it's the other reason to fly One World was obviously Cathay, but they have the a zero flying policy. No, sorry, zero COVID policy. So it's really hard to fly them at all. It really is. Actually,
at least their lounge is back open.
Yeah, and only until 5 p.m. I think, because I tried going, it was closed.
Oh,
I think it's only 5 p.m. So if you're later that day, I think 5 guys check it on Terminal 3 at Heathrow. But at least I've heard, I don't know how, if you would do it, but Hong Kong Airport is reopened for transit traffic. The thing is, honestly, would you do it? I mean, they keep having bans every 2 days on aircrafts and stuff. And
I wouldn't do it because I wouldn't want to get trapped. And also, I would just have my face pressed against the window wanting to get into this. It would just be torture.
I forgot to put the intro song, man. Like, guys, I forgot how to do this. Let me just do the very quickly before we move on to... He's laughing at me, of course, because he's a producer extraordinaire. I'm just an amateur here. There you go. You have it. Because I know that Gen Kanai loves it, so you need to hear it. That's the official start of the... So we got a lot of nice comments and feedback from our last show. It's been a long time we haven't done it, so I said a few shout-outs for people would be nice. So first we got a review on Apple Podcast called... the title is AvGeek Audio Paradise. Can you believe that?
That's kind.
The people listen to us because of the audio quality, not because of the content. That's by .pgc in the UK. Interesting, engaging, fun. Always a pleasure to listen to you guys. Thank you and welcome back. Yeah, we were back. Thank you so much, .pgc. Talking about rankings in Apple Podcast. We rank now number 1 in Kenya for aviation, number 1 in Kenya for leisure, and we're in the top 100 for all podcasts. And we also now number 1 in Cambodia. That's amazing. More countries to our... Wow.
I can't get over that.
Yeah, I mean, it's and welcome, guys. I mean, I'm sure you've been listening for a while, but thank you so much for pushing a little podcast that comes every blue moon in on the airwaves. On Twitter, because all these guys, they're such loyal listeners, so I want to make shout outs this time. At Zed Markenzan, latest episode of Layovers is just so good, especially Alex SFO story. Congrats.
Yeah, that was really kind, Zan. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
And he saved the episode for a flight. I think that's a repeat. I've seen that a lot. I've seen that people, because they know that we don't release a lot, they save their episode for listening in flight.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Roll of Funk, Michael Leppa, a long-time listener. New Layovers episode waiting and a 2-hour propeller plane flight ahead. BGO to Helsinki. So again, you save this for a propeller flight. Can you do you have good noise cancelling headphones, I guess?
I love that noise.
Well, you had it with the seaplane. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about it. He made the face. He just made the face as he eaten like some delicacy right there. Like Matt Graham at Matt Graham, I guess Australia. So great that you guys are back. I've missed listening to you both and hearing about your travel stories. Thanks, Matt. Manuel at Fogging Mozzies. Great to have you back, and congrats to Alex too. Looking forward to hearing the next episode in August. See, it's not August.
Oh, it's funny because it's true.
Yeah. Ed Parson, our good friend Ed. Actually, Ed, you have to come on the show. I mean, I already told you he's a gold BA guest list.
Yeah.
is it called guest list? Yeah, he was just. I saw that on Instagram. You were bumped to 1A on Miami Heathrow. You have to come and tell us how that was.
I want to hear about his story about landing. Was it Logan Air, Ed, that you landed on the beach up in somewhere up in the islands in Scotland?
Oh yeah,
I want to hear about that.
Yeah, then in Scotland or something, right?
Yeah. I really want to hear about that.
Did you visit a brewery as well? I hope, like a brewery. But why am I saying a distillery? What brewery? Sorry, all the Scots are going to hate me now because oh my God. So he said, great to hear from the layovers guys after another long gap. The most romantic show so far. Oh. Yeah, of course. Yeah. It was,
thank you. Thank you, BA. I think that's fair. That's without any irony, I can say, thank you, BA.
He's going to change his stance later. No,
yeah, just wait.
Trent Prestegar at Trentus Juventus says, so great to see this back in my feed, enjoying it as we speak. Thank you, Trent. Craig, good friend, at Glenn Afric Greg McCormick. When when did it become a video cast when we can see your handsome faces? No, it hasn't. I can see his handsome face, but you can't. I'm keeping him from me, guys. I'm very
bearded, unkempt.
Maybe one day. We have the tech, we have the bandwidth, but I don't know if I were to put this on YouTube, would people find it really appealing to see our faces?
We could do a live. We could do a live recording video. Which would be kind of fun, little audience participation. I'm sure that I've just opened Pandora's box there, but
no, we could totally do it. Yeah, actually, we should once we both have a little bit more time, maybe later before the summer or something. Yeah, okay. Now I'm gonna get, like you said, we're gonna get like lots of messages asking about that. Neddy Sigun, I'm not sure if I pronounce your name correctly. At Ned_Sigun. The best podcast ever and off. Thank you, guys.
No, that's very generous.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, honestly, thank you so much. Also, long time listener, and one of our also very long time listener, Han at Han Chicago. So fun just hanging out with you two AvGeeks as you chatted about so many aspects of aviation. From industry-wide news to highly personal plans for 2 hours, and then that sentence. Absence made the heart grow fonder, but I hope the next gap between episodes is a bit briefer. There you go, Han.
We're trying.
It's not as long this time.
We're trying.
So, the shit sandwich.
I've got one for you. I got another one. Just one final shout out.
Oh.
So Joel Candia.
Go ahead.
Joel Candia, who lives in Perth. Joel Incognito.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So Joel sent me. Joel's become a viral TikToking numismatist. He's become like this.
Way.
Yeah, he's become this expert.
I'm not really on TikTok. I am kind of, but not really.
I'm not either. But he posted on Instagram as well, and he's like this. He's become this expert on coins and currency, and it's really interesting. Anyway, he sent me some old Malaysian business class menus.
Oh wow!
Pre-pandemic, because his family is of Malaysian descent, so he has still a lot of family up there. And it just makes me want to go on Malaysian again with all of these wonderful kind of Hokkien and Malaysian dishes, and the wine list looks incredible. It makes me want to travel on Asian Airlines again. But anyway, thank you, Joel, for sending me these. These are stunning, beautiful things. Now I'm hungry.
You have an hour and a half to go before you can. No, okay, we can do a pause. You can make yourself an actual
some satay, Nazi lemon.
Yeah. You know what you just said about traveling on Asian Airlines. That's the thing. I mean, like I would usually go to Japan with Emirates, but honestly, or I've done many. I've done, of course, JAL and whatever. But whenever I go to Asia now, I just want to go on an Asian airline. Mm-hmm. Nothing against any other. It's just I want to go back to an Asian airline. Yeah,
that's me. I agree. Well, hopefully soon enough we'll be able to experience that.
Yeah,
somewhere.
Okay, so .pgc in his I say is, but it could be hers. Review said that we were fun, but I don't know how to do this. There's always the delicate balance in a show like this. But we cannot not mention Ukraine. we're not going to be saying anything smart about it because everybody said a lot of smarter things that we could ever do. It's a catastrophe, of course, and it's honest. What the hell? Innocent people are getting blasted and shelled and whatever. So I don't know what anything intelligent to say. Of course, it's close to us, closer geographically wise, which is why, of course, it seems to affect us more.
And of course, we've both been there, and we know people from Ukraine as well.
Exactly. So. But let's not kid ourselves. There's been other wars. There've been Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yugoslavia, twice, and stuff in Africa, and Asia, Yemen, whatever. So, but it touches us obviously. But I don't think the only thing I would say is if you can do something, guys, whether it's helping refugees or donate. There's many people much smarter and much more, maybe even kinder than us, doing great things. I'm sure it's been a month now, so you might already have done stuff. I have, but there's I don't know what else to say. It's because, of course, a lot of the tweets that were going from. So I have the Layovers Twitter account. I follow a lot of course, people in the industry and other av geeks. And sometimes, people were only talking about the Antonov that got destroyed, blasted. And it's sad, but compared to what's actually happening to people on the ground, it's just a plane, right? I mean, it's still sad. Let's be clear, right? I don't think they will ever rebuild that Antonov, but I know that some Afghans hate me right now because I said it's just a plane.
No, but you're right. It is just a plane, and I think there's so much more going on. Even within our world, I think people are if we're just talking purely about aviation, that there are people that are losing their jobs, people that are trapped and can't get out. A journey that would take 90 minutes now takes 2 days. Yeah. So there's so many things that I don't even think that we can wrap our heads around.
Yeah. I will add one political comment. The UK is not really good at, I'm talking to the government and other people, because the people have been great at dealing with the refugee crisis. Yeah. I mean, the rest of Europe has been amazing. The UK is really putting barriers, and it's shameful. Anyway, maybe still it affects. So again, none of what we're going to say now it reaches any of the height of pain that people on the ground must be having or people that have lost families. And I know some of them, friends of mine there. No, not friends that I didn't lose friends, but friends that have lost part of the family. So we're going to talk about aviation again because it's an aviation show, but guys know that we're not equating all this. Yeah. So it's going to be a bit lighter. But one of the consequences of these, of course, is the sanctions on Russia. They're very heavy. And so Sabre stopped servicing Aeroflot. Airbus and Boeing are not doing any maintenance or giving parts anymore or training. Bermuda revoked the licenses of almost 800 Russian aircraft. I didn't know that a lot of Russian aircraft civil aviation was registered in Bermuda.
I didn't know that either until this all happened.
Yeah, I think for tax reasons probably, right? Bermuda generally. Sorry, friends in Bermuda. I didn't want to use a cliche, but I'm Swiss. People also come to Switzerland for tax reasons, I guess. So basically Russian airlines are stuck in Russia, or maybe they can go to Belarus or something. But on the opposite end, because of the tit for tat in this sanctions game, a lot of airlines from the West, but also Asian airlines, cannot fly over Russia anymore, which creates a bit of a bind. Of course, the fact that Asia is still relatively closed means that we don't really see it as much as we would have seen it in another period of time. But I'm sure most of you know, but basically, I think just after the Second World War, when the Chicago Convention was created about, I don't remember the actual name of the Chicago Convention, but basically regulating civil aviation, the USSR didn't sign the Convention on Transit. So every airline that wants to fly over Russia needs to have an authorization and pay a fee every single time. And of course, Russia now revoked this authorization, and so if you want to fly to Asia, basically you might, especially from Europe, you might take a huge detour, or of course from Japan to Europe, same thing, huge detour.
Yeah, it's when you look at like Flight Radar or anything like that, the only ones that are flying over there are Chinese airlines because most of the Russian airlines aren't flying outside of Russia. Yeah. But even to the U.S., there's certain routes that were flying over northern Russia to get from, say, New York to Tokyo the long way. It's adding hours and thousands of miles to some routes that are having to go either south or go the long way. It's or people just cancel the routes.
Yeah, I think that was in February. So I don't know how much of a thing it became, but like end of February. But I think Anchorage Airport got a lot of requests, inquiries about could we eventually maybe land there to do a stopover, which is like a throwback to the 50s. Mm-hmm. Or to cargo during the pandemic, actually. There was a lot of cargo going through Anchorage. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I've never visited Anchorage.
No, neither have I.
A cool thing to have like a Dubai in the cold, right? You know, you stop over, you stay for 3 hours.
Well, there's that new U.S. airline that's trying to do that. They're trying to become the Reykjavik of that going to Asia. So you would fly from the U.S. to Anchorage. They're using 757s. And then Anchorage to various cities throughout Asia, using the same model as Iceland Air and WOW used, and now Play and all the others, the ones that have tried it. So I don't know how successful they'll be, but it's nice to know that there's yet another option.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. But talking about the Dubai of the North, Helsinki, so Finnair was trying to do that, and Finnair is really in a bind because like they have, you know, they're on the border with Russia, so they basically have to backtrack or to go up all the way. They also have issues with GPS because the GPS is scrambled on the border, and also, you know, for Kaliningrad, which is an enclave, which is southwest of the Baltic states, so it's a Russian enclave. So there's a single route over the Baltic Sea that Russian airplanes can use to connect with mainland Russia, I guess. And also the GPS has been scrambled, so it adds more issues for Finnair. I mean, a plane can fly without a GPS, right? There's other means, but it adds a little bit to the... But on the overflight, so, you know, the longest flight in the world is back to being New York to Singapore by Singapore Airlines. I think that's... almost 16,000 kilometers. And the way back, I think there's a little bit difference, but I mean, it's basically that. And then there was, I think, New York to Auckland, etc. But because of these overfly rights, we have a new number one. It's Cathay Pacific. Cathay Pacific, New York to Hong Kong is adding 4,000 kilometers. So it went from 13,000 to 16,000 kilometers. That's more than 17 hours because they have to, they cannot fly over Russia. So they basically are flying from New York over Western Europe, then down to over, I guess, Iran, and then to Hong Kong. That's a very, very big detour, which
ridiculous.
Doesn't help Cathay in there.
No, I mean, those planes are got to be empty too.
Well, they are anyway, right? I'm sorry, but it's sad. Yeah. They are anyway. The other thing, and maybe the last for Russia, is that lessors are freaking out because they... a lot of... I don't remember the number, but I think it's like about 12 billion worth of aircrafts that are owned by lessors. And because of the sanctions, there's no money. You know, they're not being paid anything, and they cannot repo the planes. What a shit show.
Yeah, and I think they signed the law that said you can keep...
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm sure once this is all, you know, hopefully done quickly, that's going to be fun to unpick.
Yeah, it's anyway. Again, none of this compares to what people are experiencing in Ukraine. Of course, Ukraine themselves, the airline, what's the name? Ukrainian International Airline, UAI, I think, is paused. I don't think they've had any damages, but I'm not sure. For the airports, maybe, but not the planes. If you go on their website, currently they say they're not going to fly until May. Hopefully that would be the end of this. But honestly, the way it's going, I'm not actually sure. I don't want to make any other comments, but it's really not fun. So this is why I wanted to start with something fun, because I don't know how to approach it to make it kind of fit the usual tone of our show. So from one catastrophe to one another, I think we need to acknowledge it also, although it's not fun either, that crash in China.
Oh yeah, bizarre.
I mean, First of all, everything is filmed nowadays. I mean,
I know, which makes it almost worse.
Yeah.
Dash cams
I'm the same.
and cams and all that. I don't
It's
want
not
to
a video game, right?
No.
It's people on the fly, right? And I mean, we don't know. So there's nothing, the investigation is ongoing. So we're not going to say anything more. Just that I've heard a lot of people say, well, I'll never fly a 737 again. And I'm like, guys, it's not the MAX, it's the NG.
It's 800, yeah.
But it doesn't help Boeing still.
No.
Because a lot of people, and I have friends of mine, smart people that are saying that. And I'm like, are you sure?
I mean, I remember there was an accident 25 years ago, and there was I think somewhere in Central America, and there was an NTSB spokesperson who said the amount of 737s in the air at any one time, the amount of flight hours they've done, doesn't just statistically make this unusual, it makes it bizarre that it would happen. And I think that remains the case, but 737 is 737. And, it's easy for Boeing to say, no, there's the MAX and there's the 800. In the public's mind, a 737 is a 737. And we've seen it with orders. We've seen it with deferrals. We've seen it with people, probably not as much as we may think, choosing one flight over another because it's not a 737. But it's not what Boeing needed right now, setting aside tragedy.
No, they didn't. But, well, I hope that we learn. It seemed very catastrophic as a crash. Again, because we've seen, sadly, the images, because otherwise it wouldn't be. It seems like very sudden.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that was interesting out of it, though, came the analysis across the board saying that, counter to what I'm sure a lot of people, even in our world, thought, is that every article, from the BBC to Air Current, all those people like that, said China has one of the safest aviation systems in the world. Yeah. And statistically, it's true. It's one of the top 3 in the world. There was not a single life lost since 2012, or maybe even longer than that. And I think what all of these articles then pointed out was this was on the back of a heinous safety record in the 80s and 90s. And the whole industry went over this period of regulation and then deregulation post kind of state ownership or quasi-state ownership. So now it is an incredibly safe, incredibly highly regulated aviation system, which I think a lot of us overlooked, either because of just general bias or just because they didn't actually talk about it.
Bias is terrible.
Yeah, certainly for me.
It's sad because every time there's incidents, or in whatever field, but of course aviation, you have these stereotypes that come back. And I've flown domestic China, and I mean, honestly, it's more than fine.
Yeah.
I mean, the service is something else. We can discuss it, but the service is sometimes it's different, but it's very safe.
It is very safe. I remember in the 80s and 90s, my father, some of you guys know, was working in the airline industry in what was in Hong Kong, would not let us travel on Chinese airlines domestically in the time because it was that dangerous. And now he flies them all the time and wouldn't hesitate saying, "Oh, China Southern, they're amazing long haul." So, kudos to them. Was it the CAAC? Or something like that. But anyway, they've done a rigorous and thorough job of addressing all of these issues.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, they've done it because the other example, and I think your dad was saying the same. It was about Garuda, Indonesian aircraft, and Indonesia. So Garuda itself now has a good record, but the rest of Indonesia is still kind of depends on where you fly, right? And it's nothing to do with a MAX crash because actually Lion Air is actually considered a good airline. But because and I would even say that the Philippines, having flown there, I mean, they haven't had like major issues, like major crashes or whatever. But honestly, every time I was flying domestic, I was like, the hell is happening?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just dumb luck and nothing has happened. Now, maybe I'm being too harsh, and I'm sorry because I have a lot of friends in the Philippines. They must be hating me right now for saying that. But honestly, sometimes, and China, no, I think China did a good job.
Yeah, I do too. So hopefully we'll learn the cause of this and we can learn from it and move on.
As always. Yeah, as always. So, Mess, let's go to the twice weekly IT BA meltdown. So you actually experienced it because we've been hearing for a few weeks, like IT meltdowns over IT meltdowns, like luggages that were stuck or lost, or there were images at T5 at Heathrow where people were told, basically leave without your luggage. We might have them in a few days. Yeah. Turned out sometimes 2 weeks to get reunited with your luggage if it was not lost. This has been many times when there was this incident where I think all the bookings were down, and then when was it? It was
last week.
A week ago now?
Last week, yeah.
So, I mean, I'll let you tell us what the hell happened. Maybe you can intertwine with your story, right? But, I mean, it's hard to love BA. And I like BA, but it's hard to love BA these days.
It really is. All right. Strap in, everybody. This is... It's not wild. It's utterly predictable. But we were flying to Athens to film. And thank you again for all of your assistance and help on that. You made.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm really sad I couldn't be there with you, especially because you were in my hood.
If we were, I fell in love with Athens. It was a wonderful, wonderful city, but getting there was not fun at all. So we were booked on BA, and it was the last flight. I think they have 3 flights a day to Athens, and it was I think 6 p.m. got into Athens just after midnight, and dropped off at T5, and immediately I was like, there's something weird going on, because Terminal 5 have got the 4 entrances, one at either at the end and then 2 closer to the middle. They were stopping people from going into the terminal on the 2 central entrances and pointing people towards each end, and I thought, that's weird. Why is I'm okay, whatever. I was like, that's okay, because the first wing is down at one end and that door's open. So we walked down to there, and the queue for the first wing was out the door of the terminal. So we're talking 150 people deep, when usually there's no queue. That's kind of the point of the first wing. Yeah. And I was like, okay, my immediate thought was, there's been an IT failure.
That's horrible. That had to be your first.
That was my first thought. Is there's an IT failure, and we had mercifully already checked in, already got our boarding passes, had no luggage, and I said to my wife, "Okay, just stand here in the queue for a second." And I went up to the front of the queue and talked to the poor woman there and said, "Can we?" Hand luggage only got my boarding pass. She's like, yeah, you can go through security. So I waved my wife over, and we went through, and boarding pass. There was a guy stuck in the boarding pass scanners because they were failing too. Like, the doors wouldn't open. Yeah. So you know how you go in, the door closes behind you, a little kind of like, and then you scan your boarding pass, and the other set of doors. No, it wouldn't let him out. And they're like, don't bother. So I tried anyway, and sure enough, it went through. Security was quiet, and I said to the lady, what the hell is going on out there? And she said, is it chaos? I'm like, yeah. And she said, oh, they've had a system failure. And I thought, okay, maybe it's just for check-in. Maybe we've just sort of snuck in.
Exactly. What kind of IT failure is basically the game with BA every 3 days? Which one is today?
Exactly. And so the lounge, I was expecting the lounge to be just a disaster. But actually it was like it always is. And there was sort of, 80% capacity and all of that. But I'm looking on the app, and you sit down, and they've turned off all of the FIDs.
Oh.
And every 15 minutes they were making announcements saying, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to inform you that we have no information. And I'm not making that up. That was the announcement. Once again, we'd like to tell you we have no information.
Oh, God.
And then I'm keeping an eye on the app, keeping an eye on the app, keeping an eye on the app, keeping an eye on the app. Just still on time, canceled. Oh. And then they make an announcement saying, ladies and gentlemen, we gather that some of you are seeing canceled in the app. Don't do anything because it might not be right.
Oh my, what?
And at that point, there's a queue of people going, you know how there's the customer service desk? There's one poor woman with no information trying to tell people I've got no information. And after I looked and I saw that And then the FIDs came back up, and then one screen went off, and they said ignore the screens because they're not up to date.
My God.
And so the queue starts building, and I looked on various sources to check the status of our flight to Athens, and they were all showing canceled. So I went and stood up in the queue to see what their systems were showing. And as I was waiting, I could see that this poor woman was just looking at screenshots of the FIDs from the terminal that somebody had sent her on WhatsApp.
No way. Oh my God.
And the poor guy behind me, he was just trying to get to Newcastle. And I was like, dude, you could have walked for him by now. So no one knew what to do. And of course, so I look and I'm like, well, I have to get to Athens. I cannot not get to Athens. Greg was already there. He'd taken the EasyJet flight out of Gatwick, which I really wish I had done. There was a 7 a.m. flight the next day, and I thought, okay, we'll get a hotel. I know how this all works. But as soon as they had confirmed that the flight had been canceled, that flight was full, and the rest of the flights for the rest of the day were. And so again, I jumped in.
So they didn't auto put you or something.
They said so. As I was waiting in the queue, this manager was kind of briefing this poor woman, saying, here are the frequently asked questions, and here's the answers. And I overheard basically everyone, which was, book yourself on a flight, because we're not going to do it. Yeah. And whatever you can, and then put yourself in a hotel, and then claim it back, and then figure it out from there. We were lucky because we had no luggage. There were people who you couldn't leave the terminal because you weren't going to get your luggage.
Everything was down.
Everything was down. There was no baggage coming out. So I
remember, sorry to interrupt, because Alex was telling me this story. I was at home and I was checking, and other friends were stuck as well, either inbound and outbound. So there were also people at other airports and BA flights couldn't actually leave.
People were weird. You went on Twitter and it was just, again, and I feel sorry for the
disaster.
People on social.
It was a shit show. And there were even so a friend of mine was telling me that he was in I don't remember which airport, was he? Lisbon? I don't remember. And the captain, the pilot, came on the PA and said, "I'm trying to place a new flight plan with my mobile phone, with his iPhone or whatever, because the IT failure was preventing all the load sheets to be
all the sheets,
uploaded.
all the flight plans, all the weight and balance, and the phone system.
Imagine the pilot with his phone trying to say, maybe I can bypass.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, because the phone systems had gone down, so the pilots couldn't call into flight ops and get it done manually. So they were all sitting on the ground in Nice and Tel Aviv saying, we can't file our flight plan, so we can't leave.
Nothing.
And when they were holding everybody at the outbound airports or the inbound airports saying, we don't know if we can even operate the gates. We won't be able to get the luggage off or anything like that. So Twitter was lighting up with people who had been on airplanes for hours in Tel Aviv and on the ground.
Yeah, on the ground, which is why it makes sense. I mean, in the catastrophe is a bit of a big word, but in the mess, it makes sense. It made sense for, I think, BA decided to cancel all the flights 6 p.m. onwards. Yep. Because, all the inbounds couldn't come, so they just said, you know what, I guess that's their thinking. We basically canceling today. Let's restart maybe tomorrow Monday. Hopefully it's going to be
That's exactly what while I was waiting in line, I was looking, and there was an Aegean flight that left in 90 minutes from a different terminal. And I was like, I don't even know how we're going to get out of the terminal, if they've set anything up that's reasonably straightforward. But there was a Swiss flight via Zurich that left at 6 a.m. from Heathrow.
The Swiss always save,
then they really did, because that was the earliest flight. There was a BA flight at 7, but I didn't trust them that flight was going to operate. So I booked, last minute, 2 people on Swiss, and it wasn't cheap, but by the time I got to the front of the line, I had overheard the answer to most of my questions, which was, "You're going to pay me back, right, for all of this?" And they said, "Yeah, just go." I found a hotel in the nick of time, which was the one right inside Terminal 2 is. I think it's a Hilton Garden.
Yeah, I've never tried it. It's pretty new, actually.
Yeah, brand new.
Brand new, yeah.
So to get out,
It's next to the car park.
yeah,
right?
you walk to the back of the car park, and it's right there.
Yeah. I've seen it building everything because I'm a big, of course,
You're
Star Alliance. I've seen it build over time, but I think it opened during the pandemic.
It did open in the pandemic, and I'm so glad it did because then you're not faffing with shuttle buses at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
But as I was walking back to my wife, the board lit up with those cancellations you just mentioned, everything, and people were like, going to South Africa, and they said. They made an announcement saying, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on BA, I think it's 48 and 49 or something like that, to Cape Town and Johannesburg, respectively, don't worry. Your flight hasn't been canceled. It's just been delayed overnight. And I was like, that's basically a cancellation. You're telling them they're not going for 24 hours, but you're not going to give them their luggage. They're going to keep it because the flight's not canceled.
Yeah, and also because they're probably unable to actually look at the luggage. So they say, they pretend it's just delayed.
So to get out, you go down. We went downstairs and to gate A18, which is right underneath the lounge. And they would basically, you as opposed to going through the boarding pass scanner and then staying at the same level and walking onto the jet bridge, you went down the escalator, which is ordinarily blocked off, and then out into arrivals. You go through immigration, scan your boarding pass. And then when we came through the baggage claim, it was like a refugee processing center. And I'm not saying that to be funny or exaggerate. They'd brought out snack carts with waters and crisps because people had been there for hours. And no one knew what to do. The staff all looked just exhausted and fed up because they weren't giving any information. And we jumped on the Heathrow Express to Terminal 2 and into this hotel, which, by the way, if you're ever at Heathrow, the 14th floor of the Hilton Garden Inn, or whatever it is, the Hilton Inn has an amazing bar with 360-degree views.
Oh, you sent me a picture
of the airfield. So I ate it.
So because my cleaning lady is next door actually doing the Hoover, I'm going to let you continue the story with the Swiss flight.
Okay.
And especially I want to hear how Megan found Swiss.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the only thing. I ate a terrible burger and had an overpriced beer, but I got the absolutely wonderful views. And, the hotel is fine and all that. Alarm goes off at 3:30 in the morning. Walk wonderfully over to T2, which was an absolute zoo. Just a disaster. The queue to get through security, which wasn't open yet. This is like 4:30, 4:45 with our flight being at 6. Ours was the first flight to leave. The queue must have been 200-300 people deep.
Yeah, they only opened, sorry, because you're hearing the hoovering. The queue only opened at 5 always.
Yeah.
Because I've taken that flight, the 6 a.m. one. And so without even being a zoo, it's always been stressful because you're like, ooh, will I make it? I mean, you always do, but... Yeah.
There were so many people that they were having to queue, people who needed to check into like TAP and Lufthansa, who share that main central check-in concourse, out the door. There was no airport staff. These two poor women, I think they were from Ethiopian or TAP or something, who were just trying to help their own customers, were basically traffic controlling people who splitting across queues. Eventually, getting through security was fine, but they've got these new scanners where you don't have to take out your laptop or anything like that. But they didn't tell anybody until this poor, frustrated, bedraggled woman who was doing the security processing stood up on the table and said, "Don't take anything out. You don't have to." And people were faffing with all of their stuff. But it was a...
Do you still have to take your belts and stuff, right? It's just the luggage you don't have
No,
to
they have the particle scanners. Aren't they called particle scanners? Anyway, they have those now too. So you go through that as a matter of course. And
the Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. And not as exception. And you get through and the terminal is silent. There's nobody there. And you walk up. And I was excited from the... knowing, and I think you and I talked about this as it was happening, I was excited because it was a 220 from London to Zurich, and my wife was like, what the hell are you talking about? I was like, it's just, let me have this. It's just a neat little sleek looking plane. It's fun.
I love that plane.
And of course, boarding was easy and Swiss,
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the right definition, right?
And then, it was a busy flight, but it's so easy. And we were slightly late because we were waiting for people who were stuck in security. Exactly. But it's such a short flight. It's such an easy flight. And I kept telling Megan, Zurich is the world champion for tight layovers. Yeah, it really is. I mean, and I was excited having.
No, I agree. It's easy.
It was so easy, and she I think appreciated that. She doesn't eat chocolate, so I was like, okay, when that lady comes around with a basket of chocolate, you take yours. And you give it to me.
Of course.
I was like, don't say no, thank you. But the one thing I observed about Swiss is that it is no frills done properly.
Yeah, I think that's a good definition. I think in economy is exactly that. It's that's the perfect definition.
It's buy on board the coffee, but the coffee was good. It's one of those ones with the filter built into the lid.
Yeah.
Which tastes good because it's proper filter coffee. There's no Wi-Fi, there's no power at the seats, but it feels and that's fine. Where on some of the budget carriers, it does feel like you're nickel and diming me. But we got
and for people who have no context, if you actually, because I've done it several times, of course, being Swiss myself, I always do compare with EasyJet, for instance, to go to Switzerland, and the price is usually £5 to £10 difference. Yeah. So we're not talking about you paying twice the amount compared to a low cost to get a slightly better service. It's literally the same price most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, all things considered, last minute flight on a good carrier, it wasn't that expensive. And of course, they invest in where it makes sense. So the seats are comfortable. They have obviously those wonderful little screens on the A220 which show the route map and everything. But then the Swiss app, especially when you're doing a connecting flight, is so freaking good. It just shows you visually. Of course, it shows you visually. It diagrammatically where you are on the journey and the times you have. It's just so.
Oh wow! I've never tried because I know the layout of Zurich. Oh wow, that's cool.
But just like you're on this part of the journey, and then you've got this amount and it's going to go on this gate, and that will take you about 10 minutes. And so
that's very good.
You got to Zurich, and I'm like, we only have an hour. That's plenty of time to get a coffee, a croissant, relax. We don't need to worry about this. She's like, are you sure it's only an hour? I'm like, this isn't Detroit. This is Zurich. So you
or Frankfurt. Yeah.
You do have to walk a reasonably long way. I think it was a 10 or 15 minute walk, but then it's
because you are out Schengen. So you gates D when you arrive, and you need to probably move to A.
Exactly. We were in A. So, and interestingly, you go through passport control.
Yeah, of course.
But they also are doing COVID checks there as well. Oh, so the poor immigration officer was like, where are you going? How long are you in Switzerland for? I'm like, we're just transferring. He's okay. Where are you going? Athens. Okay. He flips through and he's like, okay, let me see your vaccination card and all of that. I'm like, wow, you guys have to do this too. But it was all, of course, very, very quick and very easy. And as we were walking from D to A, Megan was kind of like side-eyeing all of the shops and the eateries going, this is a really good airport. And I'm like, what makes you say that? She's like, oh, it's all nice shops and everything, but just like all the food, like all of the sandwiches and the pastries, and they look like what you would find in Paris or something, like not in the airport, but actually out and about. Yeah. And so
I'm happy she liked
it. Yeah. And
that we have validation from an external point of view because I'm obviously by it.
And I was like, shit, I've really bigged this up. I've bigged up Swiss, and I've bigged up an airport as much as one can to somebody who's not a bona fide AV geek. But our flight was late arriving from Stockholm, the inbound flight to take us to Athens. And so our flight was late leaving by about half an hour, but it was always it kept you up to date. There was no fuss. Boarding was smooth onto a 320, and the flight was very full, but it was all done so well. What's interesting though is they've got the drop down monitors on the 320, and they played the moving map for like the first half an hour of the 3 and a bit hour flight. No, 2.5 hour flight to
2.5, yeah,
to Athens, and then the rest of it was like a B-roll video of London. What? And then a B-roll video of Paris.
What?
Yeah, it was so weird. I was like, can you put the map back on? But again, like Swiss, what a joy. You get there, take the taxi into town at Athens and all of that. Interestingly, no immigration at Athens. I was not prepared for that.
Schengen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. This is why sometimes I would, instead of doing a direct to Athens, I would go via Switzerland, because when I arrive in Athens, it's
straight out
Schengen, so you just go straight. It's like
COVID
domestic
check.
US.
Yeah.
I know.
You showed me your vaccine.
Bizarre for us.
It was weird.
Right.
I was like, this is what's happening. But yeah, so the Swiss saved the day. Zurich saved the day. It was nice to have we had breakfast there in Zurich airport, and on the way back, I was the one thing I wanted to make sure was, because BA didn't reaccommodate us, didn't automatically book us on another flight from London to Athens, like they said they would, but never did. I wanted to make sure that because we essentially
didn't take the outbound, you wouldn't.
Exactly, that our return flight. So I asked them at Heathrow, and they said, it shouldn't be a problem, but check with BA at Athens when you arrive. I'm like,
okay,
I'm not going to do that. I'll be on the wrong side of the airport. I'm not going to do that. I kept looking at it. Like, no, it's all fine. I was able to pick my seats for the flight back, which was it.
Okay, good.
I think
that's a sign that you're on the flight.
Half past 4 in the afternoon. And we'd finished filming by this day, and I thought, we got up, like, let's wander back in. We found this great little bakery near the Central Market in Athens. Let's go back there and wander around, and then maybe we'll have some lunch, and we'll go to the airport, get there around, I don't know, maybe just before 3 for a 4:45 flight. And at about 11:30 in the morning, I get a text message saying, sorry, your flight's been canceled. Your BA flight's been canceled.
Help themselves.
And then, but don't worry, we've put you on the last flight of the day.
Yeah,
the later one. And I had a speaking gig the next day at 9:30, and I was like, well, we'll be at the hotel by like midnight in London. That should be fine. And then I thought,
yeah, but what if?
I don't trust them.
Exactly.
I don't trust them to operate this flight. So
yeah, they'll say it's canceled again or something.
There was a flight at 1 p.m. and I was looking at my watch going, it's 11:15 and we're nowhere near the hotel. So I booked us on that flight, used the fantastic Beat taxi app that you told me about, taxi to the hotel, grab the bags, taxi to the airport, and on to this 1:30 flight or whatever it was. And we made it, and it was fine, and it got us there. But
yeah, but it's stressful.
It's stressful, and then T5 was a shit show when we got there, and half the things weren't working, and there was nobody there to.
It's really bad.
To operate the what is it? The landing guide, taxi guide to get us into the gate. And BA sent us an email at the exact time they texted me, which was basically trying to explain why they'd canceled the flight, but all it came off as, gosh, it's hard to run an airline. It was really lame.
I mean, it's they have this new CEO who replaced Alex Cruz, and he made the good moves in terms of when he announced, I think they're bringing back food, so you don't have to pay on board for economy. In terms of the announcement and how they see the culture of the company and everything. But just fix your IT issues, guys, because the rest, I think the people at BA have always been great. I like them. This is why, for me, the separation between like and love is because, I can love the people and the crew usually have been great, etc. But the fact that I've always had issues, And it seems to be increasing if you just read the news for the past 3 weeks, since basically travel is picking up. So it makes it like I don't trust them.
Well, that's it. I mean, this trip fundamentally eroded my trust in BA to get me from point A to point B when they say they're going to. They will always do it safely. I'm never worried about that.
No, that's different.
But whether they will actually do it, and I'm not going to be booking. Megan's flying to California next month, and I said, you know what? Virgin's the same price. Why don't you give them a whirl? Tell me what you think.
I was thinking about her because I was like, okay, she probably haven't done a lot of BA. She came to the UK with BA when the story you told us in the last episode. And our first experience is like being completely backed up first wing. I mean, you wanted to make something nice for her because, of course, you like also flying, and nothing works.
Yeah, it was,
and on both ends, inbound, outbound.
It was infuriating. It was really just the whole thing felt really slapdash. And I know that it's going to take me months to get my money back. And interestingly, on Flyer Talk, of course, it's just lit up with all this stuff. There were people, because there's been a major, or if you want to call it catastrophic IT failure every month this year with BA.
Yeah, that's why I said biweekly.
Yeah, and people were saying
every 2 days.
It's been months. They've been waiting for months to get made whole again, and we're talking thousands of pounds.
Yeah, no, it's gonna drag them down unless they. I don't know. I was having this exchange with Ed Parsons on Twitter, and I said they need to scrap and start all over the IT. I mean, he was telling me they're using some Sabre tech stuff from the 60s, and they just build. It's like a whole badly made factory with bolts and stuff put on top of each other. And the thing is, this is what we just said. The fact that travel is clearly picking up in the UK because, I mean, as you guys know, that we haven't had any restrictions basically from the last summer, but now there's not even a restriction of travel. So no inbound testing, no outbound testing, nothing. Vaccinated, no vaccinated, doesn't care. So we're back in 2019. Yeah. And although, of course, there's inflation, so there's a crisis, because, some people are suffering in terms of their wages. People are just there's a pent-up demand, and it's crazy. And suddenly these IT issues that were always there, has been here for years, for like a decade or something, well, they're coming up again because suddenly the scale of it makes it that everything suddenly breaks. Yeah. And BA doesn't. I don't know how they're going to solve this because I want to like them, I want to love them, but I can't.
Well, I mean, I
will fly Qatar to go somewhere.
Exactly.
I can use my avion.
Irrespective of whether or not we like them, we depend on them. Because they are our local carrier, and they don't. No one has the reach that they do, at least directly. If we want to go,
no.
But thinking about it, if I need to do a 45-minute layover in Zurich to get somewhere that is reasonably in the same direction that I could take BA, I will think twice about those stopovers.
Yes,
just for peace of mind, if not comfort.
I agree. I mean, they're not been the only in terms of because So there's the IT things, and there's a pandemic and the pent-up demand that is coming back. So these two things are separate, but of course they kind of coalesce in one big and boom. Because other airlines having issues. EasyJet has canceled like thousands of flights as well. Ryanair has canceled flights. I don't think Virgin has, but I'm not sure. I'm flying them tomorrow, so I
think that they're reasonably immune from it because they're so much smaller. It's funny actually you say that because there was a woman in front of me in the customer service queue who was a BA flight attendant in uniform, and she was just trying to get up to I think Manchester maybe, and she said, "You've rebooked me, but from another airport." They wanted her to go over to Lucy, and I said, I was joking, and I said, "This has never happened with you guys, would it?" And she said, "Yeah, but we're tiny." So we can fix it manually.
No, of course. That's why I said the scale of it and the scale. So I think there's so if we remove the IT issues, which should have been fixed, and maybe that's a legacy of Alex Cruz, maybe like outsourcing everything. I don't know. I don't want to just There's a saying in French we say. Shooting on the ambulance, right? Is like he's already wounded. What would you actually add?
Yeah.
But if you just think about a pandemic, it's true that other airlines have been having issues because we have. First there's like staff shortages because a lot of airlines have simply let go of people during the pandemic. BA especially, they've actually used the pandemic to restructure, and when you suddenly have to, at very fast speed, rehire a lot of people. Well, it's difficult because a lot of people are not available. Some of them don't want to work with airlines anymore because they might have found other jobs. And you cannot, it's not like, people need to be trained. You cannot have cabin crew hiring them tomorrow. Yeah. You need to train them if you want to create new ones. So they probably didn't expect such a huge demand for Easter, since we started that. We're in the Easter holidays. So there's a bit of like lack of anticipation, lack of staff, and of course let's be honest, there's 5 million people with COVID in the UK this week. So there's also staff that is simply not showing up. I've had a friend of mine having his flight canceled because simply they didn't have enough cabin crew to operate a flight, because there's a number of cabin crew per passenger. That's law, right? And of course, before people say anything, COVID is not the current, at least this Omicron 2, whatever, is mild, if you want to use that term. I mean, let's not get into that debate. Yep. But the point is, the staff is not showing up. They're not. So the rules, the rules in the UK have changed. You don't have to isolate anymore if you have COVID. But obviously, companies don't want to, especially in a cabin crew. You don't want to put a cabin crew having COVID and giving it to half of the aircraft because it would be bad. It could be brand damage, right? So at the end of these issues exist, but on top of that, if you add the IT issues, then you arrive at a position. I don't know if they're going to solve it. Of course, once the holidays are over, maybe there'll be less passenger. But and that includes, by the way, handling at airports. This is why we have luggage issues. That includes staff for even simply to get you to, like you just said, like to make the traffic.
I can't remember what those things are called. The gate guidance systems or whatever they're called.
Yes. And the gate themselves, there's so many people were stuck because there was no one to operate the gate. There's not enough staff, clearly, right? And it's, and it's not only Heathrow, it's Manchester. The images last week were crazy. Yeah. It was people playing Tetris with luggages.
The chief executive of Manchester Airports just resigned as a result.
Oh, did he? Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. Well, the one thing, we used to talk in this show about technology and how it helps you create a seamless experience. And you've just mentioned the Swiss app, and you have all these airlines, including mine, Virgin, flying them for the first time tomorrow, that keep saying, "Arrive early for your flight. Arrive early for your flight because there's long queues, etc." And I'm like, what does that mean? Early?
Yeah,
3 hours. 5 hours, 7 hours, because airports should be working. I know it's easy to say, but should be working in unison with these airlines to say, look, they know how many people are at the airport right now, or they know that for the past week there's been X amount of people at T5, or X amount of people at T3. That's where I'm flying. Just say, guys, the queues were 2 hours yesterday, so please come 4 hours. I don't know. They should have give a little bit of expectation, because I've seen people, friends of mine, actually. I've been going like 8 hours before a flight. And I get it, because you're like, I don't want to miss it. It's my holiday. Yeah. But then it adds up, because you have people that are too early on top of people that are not too early. And that creates even more people in the airport, because there's no sense of when, And it's not also the fault, checking, have to ask like so many questions. So what, depending on destination, do you have your vaccination? Do you have your PCR? Do you have X and Y and Z? So check-in takes much longer than it used to. So I'm not putting the fault, the poor guys are checking and they have to control everything. But it just creates, I think we should have, at least airports should give us a little bit more of anticipation. I don't know how it is in your countries, guys, but here it's a mess.
Yeah, it really is a mess. And it's going to be a long time before it gets any better.
Yeah, I think so too. Talking about Swiss, there was because it's currently happening. There's been this story of a 220, since you've flown a 220, landing in Miami in parallel with a 777 by Swiss. And why is a 220 of Swiss in Miami? That makes no sense at all. They do not fly these kind of routes. If you want to see a 220 and you live in Santiago de Chile, there's the FIDE, which is the Air and Space Fair, and Airbus has asked Swiss, could you bring us a 220 so we can show to people at airlines? Obviously, I think they want to, prop that aircraft.
It's such a great element.
So if you are in Santiago de Chile from the 5th, yesterday, to the 10th, if you go to that air show, you could be able to see a 220 from Swiss and understand what Alex is talking about. But it must have been fun to see like a 220 in Miami landing parallel with a 777 from Swiss. It doesn't happen often. By the way, anything else you wanted to add about Athens airport? Or
No, it's funny when Greg left the day before because he had a commitment, and I sent him a message saying, "How did you find the airport?" And this was before I went. And he's like, "You know what? It's very good. It's tight and efficient and easy." And he was just impressed by it. And I had the same experience. Dropped off the line for outbound immigration. It's nice having outbound immigration right there as the first. It is the first thing you do, because then you don't have to worry if you're going to the basically outside of Schengen.
Yeah, there's two basically. Either there are Schengen gates and non-Schengen gates. And once you pass, you're
in your own area and you don't have access to anything. But this was not. You go through. It was very fast. And then through the security, very fast, and into the bright, clean, reasonably austere, but in a functional way airport. I was impressed.
It's been built by the Germans.
Yeah. So, okay, well, there you go. I mean, it's the whole experience.
It looks like Munich in some aspects.
It's
right? Munich
easy.
Airport. It's very efficient.
Very, yeah.
Yeah, no, I like it compared to the old one, which was. We'll talk about the old one day. I mean, it's a fantastic story. Maybe I'll do an episode on this. So I hope my flight doesn't get canceled tomorrow. It seems to be okay. I should be fine because all these airlines usually they prioritize long haul, and I'm flying long haul, obviously. And talking about these checking rule, so I'm flying to St. Lucia. And on Saturday, so I was supposed to do, St. Lucia had a rule that vaccinated visitors, need to have a PCR 5 days. It was quite generous, 5 days prior. Yeah, right? Usually it's 48 hours, perhaps 3 days, but 5 days. And so I had booked my thing for Sunday. And then on Saturday, unexpectedly, they said, well, we're changing. You can come without any testing. The issue I saw there, which is great because I canceled and I got refunded of my PCR, which was quite expensive, so I'm very happy about it. But the issue that I've seen is that then from the information to trickle down from the tourism board to the airline was still telling me, no, you need to show up with a PCR. I was calling, I'm like, it's on the official website. Kudos to St. Lucia because I ended up I was a bit freaking out. I'm going to win the argument at checking, but I don't want to spend an hour explaining that I don't need to have a test. Of course, maybe by tomorrow they will have actually settled down. But I was a bit anxious, and so I wrote to the St. Lucia tourism board in St. Lucia, and I wrote to the office here in London, and they both replied within 15 minutes.
Wow!
And by the way, St. Lucia at that time it was 3 a.m. because it was right in the morning because they're on New York time if you want to have a time zone, and they not only send me. No, we don't do travel authorization anymore. You can come in, just blah, blah, blah. But they also send me the press release and said, you can show that at check-in if they actually make any issues. We've already told them, but
Bravo.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's very, very impressive.
That is impressive.
Makes me even... it's pretty cool. Talking about Virgin, I've done the status match because you were telling me about it. So after the episode last time, I quickly went and I saw that the status match thing was running until I think the end of March. So it's too late, guys. Now, the reason I mentioned it, of course, I got gold, which is really cool because tomorrow I'll be able to try the clubhouse, that lounge that I've never been into. I've been to the one in New York, but never the one here. The one thing that was interesting is that they had this whole table of what status you needed at other airlines to get gold. And as you know, guys, I have Emirates Gold, but I would have given me Virgin Silver because they need platinum for Emirates. I have Lufthansa Gold, but they said, no, that's silver because you need to be on. So I was really lucky that BA doesn't have or that they didn't consider guest list as the actual gold because it was I'm going to get silver otherwise. Anyway, I'm very happy to
I can't wait to hear what you
think. I have 4 gold, which happened only once in my life. I have when I used to have, it's never going to last, guys, because I'm not flying anymore. So now they're stopping renewing these. So anyway, masks are being dropped. So for all the people that fly in UK, British Airlines, if you fly to a destination that doesn't require a mask, you don't have it. We're probably the first airlines in the world to do that. I don't know how I feel about that. It's still optional, obviously. BA is not very clear what they're doing.
No, I mean, our flight from Athens was masks were mandatory.
Yeah, because I think BA backtracked.
They did, didn't they?
Yes, and then they said no. For me, I've received the email from Virgin to say tomorrow it's optional.
No thanks.
But I think the only it must be really weird because we're the only ones in the world. I think most people don't have this option. The US is still, I think, at least until mid-April. That's where they're going to renew maybe the mandate. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm just saying it's interesting because you feel weird. Feels weird after 2 years to say, oh, it's an option.
Yeah, I think I'll stick with my mask for a while.
Exactly. Honestly, it doesn't bother me at all. Like zero. It's funny that the CEO of TAP had said that mask will go forever. I'm like, maybe not. Tim Clark said 2-3 years.
Yeah.
It said that, I think, 2 months ago. I think
given
more.
the breadth of their network, that makes sense.
Yeah. And, or you can go Daft Punk if you buy that Dyson thing that, have you seen? you get a vacuum cleaner on your mouth. You're not going to get any COVID or something. Okay, so quickly my flights to Dubai, and then I'm going to go to yours. We just have the time. Yeah, we'll just have time to do these both. So it was fun to go back to Dubai. So it felt that the headline is it didn't feel that much different for 2019, to be honest.
Which is good.
You let me know what you thought about your flight too. I mean, I know you went to Mali and then to Dubai, but. The chauffeur service was similar. The only difference is that it used to be Tristar, and now it's Addison Lee. And it's just note that they send you like a text every 5 minutes saying you need to confirm your booking of a chauffeur, and it never works. But they still showed up. So then T3 Terminal 3, where they fly from, was relatively busy, but not. We're talking about now a month ago. But consider the fact that T4 is still closed. You have Etihad and you have SkyTeam at T3. So it feels kind of not too busy. I don't know about, again, this is different now. The check-in was super easy. I was super early. I was like, my God, I have to show PCR, blah, blah, blah. It took me 45 seconds.
Wow.
Check my passport, check my vaccination record. No, didn't check my vaccination records because they didn't care, Dubai. Check just simply the PCR. Yeah. And that was it. So I was way too ahead of time. I passed by the lounge by Cathay.
Oh, I do the same thing.
Should I try to go in? It was in the morning, so it was open. I was like, But of course, I wasn't flying there, so no, I didn't. AA is closed, by the way. It was closed. I don't know if it's still the case. The lounge. So I went to the lounge and it was rammed because the earlier flight had been delayed. So you still had the people from the earlier flight, plus I was early anyway. So, but it was fine. The thing, I know you had a different experience. There was no nuts.
Oh, I heard about this.
25 times. I must have.
You were so...
Alex, 25. There were no nuts. And I was like, what's going on? For me, the Emirates experience comes with the nuts. And by the way, there were no nuts in the flight either. So I don't understand what happened. I mean, Alex had a different, like a week later, it changed. But for me, I had no nuts. And it was like, what? And I asked and said, no, we don't have nuts. And I'm like, are you sure?
Go look.
That was one of the things you always did. It was like, for me, it's a ritual. I would arrive at a lounge and take a plate of nuts and maybe a coffee or something. And with the nuts was essential to my Emirates experience. I was totally pissed off. Alex didn't hear the end of it because I think I'm speaking 25 times about it. I had like withdrawal symptoms of nuts. It's obviously my flight was delayed because the previous had been. I think it's like what we call in the Tube of London, we call that regulating the service. I guess it was basically regulating the service. Yeah. First, I got upgraded to first, so obviously that was fantastic. Honestly, I mean, I've done it so many times. I know I feel like blasé, but it was really, really great. Again, no nuts. That's the only thing the downside, which changed my routine forever. But for the rest, it was, of course, you had all these, you've probably seen that as well, like all this seat has been cleaned and sanitized for use and all these little things everywhere. And you're like, okay, fine. But, the crew was great. They were really fun and engaging. I don't know, maybe it's the power of brand loyalty, man, because of course I've been Emirates fly for so long, but I was really happy to be back at Emirates and it worked really well. It's they understand my tone of voice and understand theirs. I don't know how to explain that. It was like, it just worked really, really well. They have a new amenity kit by Bulgari, which is really fantastic. And you probably had that as well. They have these branded hand gels, Emirates hand gels, and you're like, okay, it's cute. But I mean, why not? Obviously, that's the power of Emirates. They have so much scale that they do these little things. So they also left like a mask on every seat, in case you wanted one. I mean, I had mine, but that's also nice. I didn't take the pajama, but everything, honestly, was absolutely fantastic. The pilot came, of course, and said, since we were talking about masks earlier, he said something like, I know that the rules of face masks has really recently changed, but on this flight, rules are the rules. You'll have to wear it pretty much at all times. I think it said it that twice, because I think that's exactly when the UK was starting to say you can do whatever.
Yeah.
So obviously people from the UK, I get it, by the way, but nothing, again, I was in first. I didn't see, and I'm not even sure where, if I had to close the door, would have they checked? I didn't remove my mask. It's just saying, yeah. No, it was absolutely, the head of cabin was French. He saw my Swiss passport, was French. There was somebody, I don't remember whom, one of our listeners sent me a video, a link to a YouTube video. It's one of these, the reviewers of seats and airlines or whatever. And I don't remember his name. And he says in that video that Emirates first is first class seat, but economy service. And I was like, come on, what the hell?
Yeah, what the hell are you talking about?
I've flown God knows how many first in my life, and this is a really good one. Maybe the tone of voice is more casual than on Lufthansa. I get that. Maybe that's not your cup of tea, but don't tell me it's not. I mean, I had literally had my glass filled every 5 seconds. There was always someone attending to me, and it's always been the case in all the flights I've taken. So I don't know how people could say that. It was absolutely great. So by the way, this head of cabin told me that the private premium economy, which is still not on sale, is EK3 and maybe EK2. You can have it. These are the flights, and also the EK73 to Paris. These are the flights with premium economy, and there's one to Frankfurt. So there's 2 to London, 1 to Paris, and 1 to Frankfurt that have.
I need to experience that.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot buy them yet, but you can, pay on the seat map. They reopened the bar. I mean, of course, for me, I hadn't flown in 2 years, so for me, they never closed it. But they reopened the bar. That's where probably the kind of mask thing is a bit
harder. Yeah.
But people do not stay. So you go and you have a drink or thing, and you stay like. You pass by. You don't stay as you used to. I think that's that was a current thing, right? So, funnily enough, I don't know how they knew that I was a first class, because that's back in the business class. They're there, and the first thing they do, they apologize. Oh, we're sorry, we don't have first class champagne here. And I look at them and said, first, how do you know I'm from there? And second, does it show on something? Do you have a print, something like a sticker in back of my back? And also I don't care. Yeah. I just wanted to see how it was, and it was one of the new ones, So it was the newer bars. It was really, really cool. We arrived late because we departed late, and then I'm going to admit that to the world, something that never happened to me. We were super late, so we land at 4 a.m. something like that at Dubai. I was, how it is, the last moments of your flight, maybe the last hour, I was not sleepy, but kind of dozing off all the time. Maybe I'm old. I wasn't drunk. I'm going to put that out there. I blanked. I do not remember entering Dubai. Yeah, the next morning I wake up, and the first thing I do is I have, what? And then I said, because I've done it so many times, it's always the same story. I know exactly what to do exactly. The only thing that suddenly I was like, I wake up, I took my passport, I opened the page, there's no stamp. I'm like, oh, I think I've used the smart gates. I don't remember.
Wow.
Honestly, I don't remember using the smart gate, but I probably have used it because it was so fast. It literally took me, because by the time, on my Apple Watch, I can see my steps. It took me all in all from landing to probably arriving in the hotel 30 minutes.
Wow.
So I must have arrived, passed, take the chauffeur drive, arrived there, and it was so tired. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's early onset of Alzheimer or something. Shit. I don't want to make a joke of Alzheimer. I have Alzheimer in my family. But yeah, it was really weird. I freaked out. I was like, I have no stamp in my passport. Did I enter illegally in this country? They're gonna detain me now forever. Which, by the way, when I exited the country, I passed by the smart gate. The thing said, please go see an officer. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I mean, no, come on. And I go see the officer. It took me 5 minutes to clear my passport. There I saw all the people going. I'm like, am I going to be stuck here? Yeah. And then the guy just said, fine. He didn't even stamp. So again, no stamp. So probably, I will never know. Pardon immigration officers. I don't know what I've done on entering the country. I'm sure I've done everything right. But in case I haven't, please forgive me for my sins. Dubai was fun. I went to the expo. It was pretty cool. I didn't expect it. I'm not an expo guy, but it was actually pretty cool. Have you been?
No, I didn't have time on this trip.
It's I love architecture, so it was pretty fun. I missed a friend who was there. I want to make a shout out. Paolo Privitera. He's a bigger flyer than you and me combined. He's a big SkyTeam guy because even though he lives in San Francisco, he's of course Italian. So Alitalia, that's his brand, or ITA, or
whatever it is.
Which one is it, by the way, Paolo? And he told me, because we were at the expo at the same time, and we didn't realize. He told me he's visited every single expo during his lifetime, and he does every single pavilion. He stayed like a week in the. I'm like,
that's dedication. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. My God, incredible. So yeah, then the conference. Just shout out to Ray, Nizar, Venus, Claudia. It was great. Step conference and Saeed. So Saeed is one of our listeners. He sends me a message on like a reply on Twitter. Says, "Oh, I'm gonna be at a Step conference." Me too. So let's meet up. And the worst timing possible. We're having issues at the main stage. I go from backstage. I sit in the crowd to listen about. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I'm totally focused, and I'm 3 minutes away from being. I'm the host of the conference. He comes next to me and says, "Hi, Paul. I think we." And I must have been Said. I'm so sorry. I must have been really so cold and so like. Can I meet you later? Because I was about to go back on stage, and I said, I'll meet you in the other stage a bit later. And I never saw him again. And I was like texting him, like, man, I mean, like on Twitter, like, hey, where are you? So Said, I'm so sorry. I hope you didn't feel I was completely ignoring you or being like, like a cold Swiss or something, because I really wanted to talk. The guy is a cadet at Etihad. I don't know exactly. Wow. So, I'm really sorry that we get a chance to talk, and I hope that we're gonna have one day, or with Alex maybe as well, because it was. I mean, I would have loved knowing a little bit more about Etihad and your process of becoming a pilot there. I mean, so I apologize publicly, Said, for not giving you more time, and especially from the way probably I felt a bit cold because I was in my it's really anyway. The returns similar, so I'm not gonna go a lot. It was the only thing I'm going to mention is that, and I don't know, you're going to tell us in a minute, but Terminal 3 was heaving. I've never. First, there was a massive amount of traffic going to the airport. I was early because, again, as I said, I don't know. They will still require the passenger locator form to enter the UK, etc. I said, I don't know, so I was too early. But man, the amount of people, even in 2019, I was not seeing that amount of people, probably because maybe the airport is not fully open in terms of the building, though all the lounges are open. The website was saying that the lounges at Concourse A were not fully open. They were, because I went to B and they said, why are you here? I said, yeah, because the website said, no, they're all open. So I stayed 1 hour in the B, and then I transited to the lounge A. Everything is open, but I've never seen that many people. Or maybe it's just because I haven't traveled in Dubai for 2 years that I haven't seen that many. It was really crazy, the number of people. And you could see that even at check-in. You've probably done the check-in, the premium. So, for business and first check-in, which is a separate entrance. Usually there's almost no one. And because they have to check every single person for, again, vaccination, the forms, the health, blah, blah, blah. It was completely backed up, and I can also see the reason. It's not our fault, but the person who was checking me in, when you do your passenger, we don't have to do that anymore, guys. But when you used to do your passenger locator form, on it would you would actually declare your vaccination status, and you can only have this form validated if you've declared your vaccination status. But yet, although I had the form, she still wanted to see my vaccination. And she noted the brand of the vaccine, the date, the first, the brand of the second one, the date, the brand of the third one, so the booster, the date. I was like, if you have to do that, and it's not our fault, but if you have to do that for every single passenger manually, of course, it takes forever. And it's not our fault, right? And imagine something with Emirates. You have so many destinations. It's every single thing is different. Anyway. Well, what else? I think that's it. Yeah, I still dislike the boarding last for people in business first. I still prefer to go in first, but yeah, never mind. But yeah, it was nice. I'll finish with that quirk. They sent me first of all, I don't know why they sent me this notification via the app 45 minutes before boarding, because I was already in the lounge. They say, oh, we have facial recognition. And then yeah, but I should have gotten that message like 2 hours ago when I was doing the whole thing. But then, by the way, I had actually tried facial recognition, but they're basically all of them are stopped because of the masks. So I don't know why they're saying they send me a notification to have facial recognition. Just well, there you go.
Nice to be back. Though.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, there was no gate at Heathrow at T3. We had to hold for 20 minutes, and then the gate that we had was not the A380 gate, so they had not the
upper deck.
The ramp. Yeah, so no big deal. But you were like, yeah, I'm back at Heathrow, and it's back to 2019 because it's always the same. There's no gate. So actually I felt, that's what I'm saying, it felt pretty like 2019. Your experience must have been quite different because you were a week later, which they already had changed the rule. By the time I was coming back, you were leaving, and they changed the rule for Dubai. Tell us.
No, you're right. I mean, I had already booked my PCR test to get into the Maldives, and then of course Dubai had dropped it, and but we needed them anyway, so it wasn't the end of the world. But to get the Maldives is 96 hours, which is a very good chunk of time. Okay, but nice. At that point, Dubai was 48 hours, and I didn't trust the normal local ones to give me one that would fit right in that sweet spot of covering both Dubai and the Maldives. So we had to drive to Gatwick to get it done, which actually from my house is nice, like 30 minutes. And it's like, of course, it's like that's a weapons grade process because it's so needed. But so I mean, you know what? I hadn't been in Terminal 3 in at least 2.5 years. And you go in there, and of course, I had the same experience that you did with we were confirmed business class because I had used miles to upgrade us on that first leg because I wanted the honeymoon just to at least start nicely.
Of course.
And interestingly, they don't do chauffeur for mileage upgrades anymore.
Oh yeah,
which is fun.
Some of these rules, I was actually. Yeah, no, I know.
That's
You're
not
right.
a big deal.
They're more strict now than before, which sucks. It sucks. It's all right.
Not the end of the world. And the check-in person was professional and kind, and again, I had to go through all the rigmarole that you did of show me your hotel booking for the Maldives because that's a requirement, and then this special form for the Maldives, and then this form, and I'm like, man, you guys have to do that. And she's like, oh, I mean, she was joking about it, but she's like, it's made our job so complicated because you think about everywhere that we fly to out of Dubai. Yeah. And then you're going into the lounge, and of course, the first thing I did was take a picture of the nuts, send it to you.
I was like, "Ow, what's going on? You drove me nuts." Oh God,
yeah, it was back to what I think it didn't feel any different. The food was really good. The available drink was really good. And of course, boarding from the lounge straight onto the airplane is such a treat. And it was Megan's first time on an A380, which,
first time
on Emirates, first time on an A380.
Yeah.
And she's not somebody who's easily impressed by things, but I think, the lounge, she's like, yeah, this is comfortable. Boarding from the gate, that's really convenient. And then you get on board and, and I was like, look, you got your own little rack of drinks and snacks right there. And, I was like, look how big that freaking screen. Even I've forgotten how big the screen is in business class. Yeah, screens are huge. And the flight was very full. The food was really, really good. And she settled we were across the aisle from each other. So
yeah, in the center, the two.
She had and I was on the window because that was all that was left in business because it was
Oh, I didn't realize.
which is actually
okay.
fine because it's actually
Yeah, of
easier
course,
to talk.
yeah.
And the service was great, and the food was really outstanding. I've forgotten how good the food is, and it's nicely laid out. The portions are really, really good. I think
I know, man.
it's such a great experience. Megan had, I think, like a chicken sandwich that I made a little silly travel video 3-4 years ago when I went to Dubai for work.
Yeah, I
and
remember.
I ordered this chicken thing, which was on a guest appearance from the Qantas menu. But I guess it has become so popular that it's now a permanent fixture. And then I had some Emirati chicken dish. It was delicious, but just the depth of content on the IFE. The one thing that I've forgotten is the interface for the ice there in Valencia. It's quite complicated.
There's a lot happening. A lot of things going on.
It's funny because Megan, she's looking at the screen. She's like, okay, so that screen, and I can use my touch screen. And I was like, yeah, it's touch screen. She's like, well, what's this screen for then? Like in the little iPad thingy. And I was like, it's the same thing, but you don't have to lean forward. And she's like, okay, but what's this screen for with the little like PlayStation mini screen? I'm like, well, that's... I'm like,
yeah, you have optionality. You can decide where you want to control.
Exactly. And I said, well, if you're somebody like me, here's what you do. On takeoff, you've got one external view of the camera, and then on the small one, you've got the other external view, and on the little tiny one,
it's made for live geeks.
Yeah, you've got the map. And I'm like, that's what I do. She's like, what about normal people though?
Exactly.
But
I think, sorry to interrupt, I think that sometimes I forget. It's true that even me not having flown for 2 years, is I haven't flown them so many times. Like I've flown them nonstop since 2010, right? Maybe probably even before. And like nonstop, guys, I've been boring you guys with Emirates because I fly them all the time. And you forget how actually so good it is. And you tend to be probably blasé at some points. This is why, for instance, I didn't talk about the food at first, what I just did. Because I had freaking caviar and everything. And you're like, I've done it like probably 25 times.
Really good.
First. But no, it is an amazing, incredible product.
It's so good. And it works every time, and the seats are so comfortable and
Agreed.
The flight was, we went back to the bar for a little bit, but it was quite a bumpy flight, so it's never particularly comfortable.
But at least you saw it.
You got that huge 50-inch plasma screen with the thingy on it, the moving map.
Moving map, actually, usually, or
moving map in this instance. Just sat there and had a cup of coffee or whatever, and then we landed in Dubai like 3:30 in the morning, and had about an hour and a half, hour 45 until our next flight. Now we were in economy the rest of the way, so I couldn't show her the lounges, but I could get into the, what is it, Marhaba lounge there with my Amex Priority or whatever it was, and it's fine, it's just somewhere to sit. But Megan was kind of sitting there, kind of shell shocked, just sort of staring into space. And I was like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, but I just sat there for the last 3 hours of the flight watching the moving map, flying over places that I, as an American, have been conditioned my whole life to be afraid of. And she's like, Baghdad, Basra, Afghanistan. She's like, and then here I am, and I get off the plane, and there's all you hear is Arabic voices, and you see people that you only ever saw on CNN. I'd never thought about that, because even as a kid, I was transiting through Bahrain and Dubai, and I never. And this was her first exposure to it, and she was like, "This is exposure, wow, like I'm here." And also, it's 3:00 in the morning.
That's amazing.
It's rare to have those revelatory moments, but she articulated it so beautifully as well.
No, it is.
And then we went to the gate for the...
Oh, hold on. Hold that thought, because in a similar kind of vein, because that happened during the pandemic, so I hadn't seen, I will admit very candidly that I was, taking off, so when I was at the return flight, Terminal 3, Dubai, I see this group of Orthodox Jews. And I had to do a double take, because now it's normalized. There's flights from Emirates.
Oh yeah,
and,
of course, into
El Al
Israel.
from Tel Aviv to Dubai, but that didn't happen when I used to. So for a minute it was, of course. But it is it is striking.
It is,
actually.
and
And I say that with a lot of love, by the way. I'm just
Yeah.
because you're not used to, So,
but it's
sorry,
nice, and I think
interrupt you.
it's important and rare to have those moments of revelation.
Go on,
No,
sorry.
I
You were at the gate?
so I got a notification on the app saying new boarding passes have been issued. Please see the gate agent. And I'm like, I think I know what that means, because somebody in Emirates had put in a good word for us, and I went up to the gate and said, "Oh, we've upgraded you, and you're in business." So go through onto the flight, and of course you've got people from all over the world on that flight, because they're all coming into Dubai and then going down to the Maldives, and it's a 777, so very different business class. But we were
the 4 hour
4-hour flight. So you've got the was it 242 or 232? Yeah.
232, I think.
So we were on a 2, and I was exhausted. I didn't sleep on the first leg because I was so just like, and so I just passed out. I just was out cold, except for the last maybe 40 minutes, because I just was pressed against the window looking at all of these islands and all these atolls.
It's amazing, huh?
You do a long turn to land at MLE, and there's seaplanes flying underneath you, and you.
It's amazing. Guys, we've done. That's the episode. That's the airport of the day is MLE, because I want to hear about your MLE experience. But it is striking because it's so different from anything else you've.
Yeah, and I was like, I had no idea what to expect, and land, and you're alongside all these other big airplanes. Door opens down onto a bus, and you feel that Indian Ocean air, and we landed at I think 9:30 in the morning into an open air immigration hall, because they're building a new airport or new terminal. I think that.
I was about to say, so you probably have seen it. So when I landed, you remember we did the episode in 2018, because that's when I went, like in May 2018. By that time, the second runway, the new longer runway, was not finished. It finished that summer, but they're still not using it. It's a taxiway still, because from what I understand, they're building, and you'll tell us in a second, they have built, and now it's finished, a new seaplane terminal, but they still have the old one, which is too close to the runway for safety reasons.
Precisely.
And you're right, they're building the new terminal, international terminal for the airport. All this was supposed to be finished by 2020, but COVID happened and everything was delayed. So I think it's a year out of being finished now, the terminal, but the seaplane I think is ready.
I think it would be optimistic, because it's basically a concrete shell at the moment. And so you go through immigration, and maybe I'll mention this at the back, but at the end. But there's to get into the Maldives at the moment.
No, talk about the airport now. Go ahead.
Well,
Please,
to get into the airport, to get into the Maldives, you have to have a hotel booking, but with either a resort or a guest house. So we were on an island at a resort, just like you were, and you get out of immigration, and immediately there's a representative from the resort, and they grab you, they take you over to the seaplane check-in, which is in arrivals. They check you in, they weigh your bags, they say wait here, a bus comes and picks you up, takes you
you have to do all around the runway.
But for me, I'm like, new airport, new weird airport. I want to have a look. And it was the same on the way back, coming back. I'm like, I want to go and get some Maldivian air. Like, they have their own little store over there. I want a T-shirt. Straight through, because it's like, I think a lot of people go to the Maldives to go somewhere hot and sunny.
Straight for the experience.
And not because, So you're right. They take you in a van around the perimeter road, past all of these, corrugated iron buildings where the Chinese construction teams lived, because they can't get back out of China to finish the airport. So there's not much going on.
Of course.
So it's just a concrete shell.
Oh, that also explains the delay.
Yeah.
Of course, man. Wow.
So you go to this the seaplane terminal, which feels very tropical and actually almost like some of the small Pacific Island airports.
So probably you went still
The
at
old
the
one.
They're next to each other, but there's the old one, and then the new one is a square. But
No, this
I'm
was
not sure, maybe also it's not finished.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, that airport was busy with so many heavies. Emirates have 5 flights a day there, and then all of the majors have
Think about it. Yeah, Qatar, everyone.
Etihad.
BA,
There was some airplanes, Air France, Lufthansa, TUI,
Yeah.
all those guys, and then of course you have the intra-Maldivian flights, which are A320s and ATRs that are flying to the many domestic airports as well. So they're a little further down. The seaplane terminal, of course, is just this constant hum because all of the airlines have been amalgamated into Trans-Maldivian Airways.
Yes.
And so there's this constant movement of dozens and dozens.
Fun,
It's paradise. They're all the same plane. They're all Twin Otters. And you know, you've done this, but for me, I was like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah,
And Megan knew this. She's like, "Why aren't you filming this? Why, this is like you've made it. This is what you've always wanted." Because you do, of course, have the option to take speedboats to some of the islands. I'm like, I don't care what it costs. This is a literally a once in a lifetime thing.
Of course.
So you get on with people going to either your resort and maybe one other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they do sometimes a stop and then
at least it's in your direction, and you get on and they do like a 10-second safety briefing. You're plugged in.
Yeah.
You've got no headphones or ear defenders or anything like that. But it's not that noisy really when you're up.
No, at the beginning you're like it's a bit, and then you normalize it and you're like it's fine.
Yeah,
actually.
no,
I know.
they have these like desk fans bolted to the wall.
Fans, yeah.
Of course, you can see it, and I'm just.
Where were you sat? Where were you?
We were sat like the 4th row back because it's 1-2, and so we were the 2. And Megan gets a little. So sometimes she gets motion sick because she's tired, so she wanted to be able to see through the cockpit window and have.
Yeah.
And so she's like, "You take the aisle," and of course you're up, and I'm just. This is the stuff that my father had, because my father lived in the Maldives in 1973. So, this place of legend, and of course, hearing you talk about it,
Of course.
and then landing on the water and going straight into this little tiny cove at the resort, and
Yeah, it's
and then of course watching the planes come and go. And actually, what I really enjoyed was looking at Flight Radar and just seeing the volume of all these planes. There's so many of this because this support and communication network and commuting for a lot of people, and then this line of airplanes coming down from the Middle East direction. Obviously as far as London, and then from India and Sri Lanka as well, just all converging on this airport.
yeah. Sri Lanka is next door.
Just what an
No,
operation!
it is absolutely. I remember I sat one of the flights. I think I sat at the equivalent of 1A, so behind the co-pilot, I think. And it was funny to see the pilot removing his flip-flops and controlling the pedals with his bare foot. And I was like, I love this. And he had like these aviator sunglasses, and it looked. I was like, this is exactly what I wanted it to be.
It was so unique and so just clearly a weapons-grade operation, and just sort of skirting around cumulonimbus clouds, and just it was like. And I know all flying is real flying, but it felt like real flying.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, you.
And I was like a kid in a candy store. And I mean, the trip, which we don't need to get into now, the resort was. I had a million questions actually, because I was worried, just like you were when we talked about this offline. I was like, "Am I going to get antsy?" Yeah, and of course I didn't for a whole host of reasons. But once I got over the fact that I'm a long way from anything that isn't just this island resort, this tiny island resort. Of course, I had a million questions about it. And I'm actually, because my wife nagged me, putting together like a 5-minute video, because I asked those questions to people around that worked there. And practical questions like, how the hell is the internet so fast? And where do you put the garbage?
Yeah, or where do you live? I mean, I was asking so many questions about the staff and how it was all organized and what they would do off season, and it's because it's like you said, it's like every hotel it's its own island basically. Atoll. It's not even an island, like it's like sand in the middle of the atoll, and it's like the food, the supplies,
it's a logistical.
It's just incredible, like mail. Yeah. How do you get
It was so interesting.
I know
I think flying back on the seaplane to Male, the one thing because we said we want to go back somehow someday. The one thing I want to do is go to Male and see
the actual city,
because you basically fly alongside it as you land. And then the flights back we were again very fortunate to be upgraded on the way back, and we spent some time in Dubai on the way home out in the desert. Yeah, it was.
You went to the hotel.
We did out in the bush.
Because I've been there in 2010, it's in the middle of the desert.
It is. And I think what was interesting is I had the same experiences, got off the plane, immigration was empty because a lot of people can use the e-gates. And they now give you is it DU, the local mobile carrier, DU? They give you a SIM card.
Yeah, it's DU, yeah.
So they'll stamp your passport and give you a SIM card. Yeah.
Huh? Just what? I didn't know that because obviously I blanked out at the airport.
Yeah. You had an out of body experience and the spirits.
So really, no. Honestly, they give you a SIM card.
2 or 3 gigabytes of for you to. Yeah,
that's very kind.
Yeah, it was good. Wow. And then it's such a breeze, and picked up an Uber and into town. What was cool about, the fact that you're in the desert, which I love, and you're in a nature reserve, but I'm sitting there after a while, and planes are flying over, pulling over up Flight Radar 24, and all what you're seeing going back and forth is all of the Emirates cadets who are flying out of DWC out into the desert, and then some to the Air Force bases around, and they're constantly going back in their Cirrus SR-22s and some of the other intra-Middle Eastern, slightly sketchy cargo flights that you see. But yeah, it was a reminder of just how good air travel can be and airports can be. Dubai and Emirates combined.
How did Megan like it all? Of course, she's not an Afghan like we could be, but was she? I'm not even asking if she was impressed, but how did she like also being in Dubai and everything? Was it something?
Well, it's funny because, and I'm sure she's going to hate me for mentioning this, but we were staying in the marina for the bits that we were actually in Dubai, which is just, and we went to a freaking water park on one of the days because
of course you love that,
and we had a great time there, and that's that's the Atlantis, So it's not really. Yeah. And we went to the mall of the Dubai Mall,
the Mall of the Emirates,
Dubai Mall, because I wanted to take her up the Burj Khalifa, and then she's like, this just feels like Vegas, and I said, all right,
let's be honest,
okay, all right, and so I took her. We went into Dubai, old Dubai. And I was like, how does it feel like Vegas?
Yeah, that's
and it is, which is my favorite part of Dubai, mainly because it feels,
of course,
like you would hope the Middle East would feel. The food's amazing, but yeah, I think she really enjoyed the Emirates experience, and I was impressed by as functional as Dubai can be, and of course, anybody who's not feels something when you're going to the Maldives is dead inside. So, it's hard not to be impressed on some level by either what you see out the window or, the operation of the seaplane or anything. I was wondering if Trans-Maldivian wanted a brand consultant for 6 months or something, But it was great. It was great. We can't
I'm gonna live there.
Can't wait to go back.
No, of course. I because I'm like you, and actually that applies to the week I'm about to leave for tomorrow morning in St. Lucia. I'm not usually a resort type of person that stays in a hotel, and especially resorts, with a swimming pool. I'm not that kind of guy. But in the Maldives, you basically do it because that's the only thing you go for, right? And it's usually, like you said, honeymoon or special anniversaries, whatever. But I enjoyed it when I went there, and I'm probably going to do the same with St. Lucia. I'm going to be yeah, I'm going to be in a resort. I'm going to, of course, escape the resort. You know, they're not going to be tying me down. I'm going to go escape and go to the city, whatever, to see actual real people. But yeah, from one time to time, it's nice. I don't think I would be able to do it for too long. I don't think I would be able to stay in the Middle East for 2 weeks. As in, at some point, I would be like, you dive, you do sports, water sports, whatever. But then at some point, I'm like,
like, and that was, the talking to the people just like you did that worked there was how I scratched that itch. Because they have what they call local islands, which is where Maldivians just live. And there was one at night you could hear the call to prayer. It was that close. It was drifting across, and I was I really, really want to go there. And they said, you can't, or you can, but you would have to take a PCR test on your return and isolate. And I was like, well, then I'm not going to go.
Yeah, I go, because I was about to say easy is maybe not the right word, but basically when you're in the resort, you're in quarantine, but you don't realize you're in quarantine. Because
you're in quarantine, so you don't need a mask. You do a lateral flow.
But basically every hotel, every island is its own quarantine system. So, but you just don't feel, it's no different from when I went, there was no such thing as a quarantine, because at the end of the day, you're just in a hotel for a week. Yeah, it's pretty, I'll tell you about the St. Lucia Express in the next episode, because there's also I have to wear a bracelet the whole time.
Interesting.
That's all I'm going to say. I don't know exactly how that works, but it's one of the things. They've been, all these countries have been very creative too, with COVID. Anything to say about the flight going home from Dubai to? So you didn't try Etihad?
No,
we'll
leave
another
it for
time, right? You just
for another time. But the flight back, daytime flight, really easy, really straightforward. Of course, business. We're again super lucky.
Nice.
We're sat we're in the very rear section of business, and
my favorite. 23A is my favorite seat.
We were a few rows away from each other because we got the last seats in business, and I went over to check on Megan after we boarded, and the flight attendant, who was Japanese, came up, and we explained, we've just been on our honeymoon, and we're just sitting opposite, and she's like, I'll see what I can do to move you together. And we're like, no, we're just gonna. But they looked after her like she was, you're not next to. I'm so sorry, but here's all these things. I'm like, what about me?
Me?
No, they looked after the right person. I was fine.
Yeah, exactly. This is how it's supposed to be. Oh, man. Look, we're a few more minutes and we're going to close this because we're over 2 hours. I'm sure we're making a lot of people happy when we talk that long. We're crazy. That's the thing of doing episodes every 2 months or something. Tim Clark is actually betting on the 380, and I think he's right. Of course, the 380 is not produced anymore. They think they still have 1 or 2 to go to receive, I don't remember. But he said the other week that... that's a quote because I noted it. I didn't have any notes, but this one I wanted. So long as governments do not invest in airports to create more capabilities, the slot issue is going to become far more acute in the next 5 to 10 years. With airport balances sheets shot to pieces during the pandemic, those investments are unlikely to be forthcoming, and thus, hence the need for the 380.
And I'm glad because I like that.
Right, actually. Me too. I love it. I actually love it. I was so happy to be flying it twice. I'm probably going to be... look, I don't have a lot of travel. Of course, as long as Asia is a bit kind of this, I could go to Thailand like Joe, but that would be holidays. And sadly, I don't... it's not as if I have a lot of time to take holidays these days. But yeah, it's... What do you have any fun trips coming up? Like in the next, let's say, month or
Probably.
Two? Before we record next,
probably. Yeah, I think nothing firm. Almost certainly a trip at the end of this month.
Yeah, so me, St. Lucia, obviously. I was supposed to go to Karachi in May, but talking about COVID, the COVID regulations are so... Yeah, I'm not going to go into now because we're reaching the end of the show. I might have to cancel it, which sucks because I was supposed to go to both Karachi and Lahore, actually, as well, which I've never been to. Interestingly, a tidbit, the trivia for those who don't know, since we talked to Emirates most of the show, EK, do you know what it means? Not. EK. What do you know you don't know what it means? Emirates through Karachi, because their first ever flight from Emirates from Dubai to Karachi. So EK, it means Emirates through Karachi. That was in... I think, TIL, exactly. I learned that, I think, a year ago or something. So it's not as if I knew that
did not know that.
My youth or something. But it's a shout out just before finish to Carlos and the crew at PT UK, Plane Talking UK. They had their 400, yeah,
400.
episode show.
Wow, they're way better. They're way 400. More organized.
And they did it at the. It was. I couldn't attend because it was the day I was coming back from Dubai, so I was still in flight. So it's a podcast, guys. It's super cool, and they did. So every 100th they do a big thing. It happened at the what's the name, man, in Weybridge, the old. Now it's a circuit for cars, but
I just went there with my kids. Brooklands. Yeah,
Brooklyn. So that's where they did it. The episode, of course, is on. I couldn't be there, and Carlos and all the guys. Sorry. There were people, some podcast people, but also AvGeeks flew from the US for the show and everything. I really wish I could have been there. By the way, Carlos told me that he had done the Maldives for his honeymoon as well. Hello, Gemma, by the way. He also took Emirates. He was also upgraded to business class. And when he had to make a choice between a speedboat or a seaplane, seaplane, because it's an AvGeek like us. AvGeeks assemble. I guess that would be... Okay, man. Let's see when we record next. I'm going to put very slowly the end song, but we can still talk over it. I hope the next 5 will be an
I can't wait for you to hear your virgin experience. Your virgin experience.
Yeah, virgin, exactly. My virgin experience. Yeah, my virgin. Also, my virgin premium economy. You know, I hesitated to bid for
upper,
but it's way too expensive. I'm not. I mean, already the reason I don't fly business is I think the flight in business class was £9,000 per person.
Well, may the upgrade gods smile upon thee tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in the flight there's other people that are. I mean, a friend of mine is already there in St. Lucia. Arrived yesterday. Paolo, hi Paolo, and he told me the flight was 60% full. His flight, Virgin as well. So maybe. Anyway, see you next time, guys. Happy flying.